The story of Glinda reflects the evolution of cinema and theater itself, from silent films to Technicolor spectacles, experimental animation, and modern reimaginings. Her changing costumes, personalities, and powers mirror cultural shifts in how female authority and benevolence are depicted in media. Each era's Glinda serves as a window into the dreams, fears, and aspirations of its audience, making her more than just a fairy tale character, but a symbol of how stories adapt over time. The early 20th century was a period of experimentation in stage and film technology, which influenced Glinda's first on-screen depictions. The Fairylogue and radio plays in 1908 combined hand-colored slides, film footage, and live performance, a groundbreaking multimedia approach at the time, offering audiences their first moving image of Glinda. In the 1910 silent film, the single scene with Glinda relied on expressive pantomime, since dialogue cards could not fully convey her magic, reflecting how filmmakers had to innovate to represent fantasy on screen. During the 1939 film production, MGM invested heavily in the lavish Technicolor process, which played a major role in defining Glinda's iconic pink gown and sparkling aesthetic. Billie Burke, chosen for her ethereal presence, was 54 at the time. Casting a mature actress was a deliberate decision to embody wisdom and maternal kindness. The Poppy Field rescue and the pink bubble entrance were technical marvels for the era, achieved through practical effects like soap bubbles blown by machines and clever editing. Meanwhile, the 1942 stage adaptation at the Muny updated dialogue and songs to match contemporary musical trends, showing how Glinda's role continued to evolve even in live theater. The 1960s and 1970s saw a resurgence of Oz adaptations as TV became a staple in American homes. The 1964 Return to Oz TV special reflected this shift by translating the story into an animated format to engage children during a time when Saturday morning cartoons dominated the airwaves. This period also saw changes in how Glinda was portrayed vocally. Casting opera singers like Ry Stevens in Journey Back to Oz highlighted a trend of emphasizing musical prestige and grandeur in children's entertainment. The 1969 The Wonderful Land of Oz included original songs to capitalize on the popularity of musicals during the late 1960s, influenced by hits like The Sound of Music. The production reused elements from regional theater traditions, including oversized props and hand-painted sets, which added a whimsical but budget-conscious charm. By the time The Wiz debuted on Broadway in 1974, the cultural landscape had shifted dramatically, with soul, funk, and Black musical traditions infusing Oz with new energy. Glinda's brief but powerful appearance in The Wiz mirrored the role of a gospel matriarch, providing spiritual guidance at the climax, resonating with audiences during the civil rights era. In the 1982 anime, Japanese animators brought a unique aesthetic to Glinda, blending anime's expressive facial animation with Western fantasy elements. This version visually emphasized youth and trace in line with the shoujo, young girl, genre's stylistic conventions, appealing to a growing international anime fan base. The 1985 dark fantasy film Return to Oz represented a stark tonal shift from the bright 1939 classic. Influenced by 1980s darker children's fantasy like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, Glinda's limited presence signaled the world's loss of innocence under Mombi's reign, which made her final appearance in the coronation scene even more impactful. By the late 80s, Glinda's pop culture status was so ingrained that even experimental filmmakers like David Lynch could insert her as an ironic, dreamlike figure in Wild at Heart, signaling her evolution into a cultural icon recognized far beyond traditional Oz stories. When Wicked premiered on Broadway in 2003, it rode the wave of revisionist fairy tales that re-examined classic stories from the villain's perspective, similar to Maleficent and Shrek. The musical redefined Glinda as a flawed but sympathetic character, adding layers of insecurity and privilege that resonated with audiences in a more self-aware postmodern media landscape. In The Muppets Wizard of Oz, Miss Piggy's Glinda parodied Hollywood's diva archetype, poking fun at the entertainment industry's excesses, a reflection of the satirical approach that defined early 2000s pop culture. The Tin Man miniseries took inspiration from steampunk and dystopian sci-fi trends, depicting Oz as a decayed empire and Glinda as a morally ambiguous queen, mirroring the era's fascination with gray morality in shows like Battlestar Galactica. Meanwhile, the Tom and Jerry adaptations blended slapstick comedy with classic Oz elements, appealing to multi-generational audiences who grew up with both properties. These diverse interpretations highlighted how Glinda's character could adapt to different tones, from dark drama to irreverent humor, reflecting the fragmented media landscape of the early 21st century. Oz the Great and Powerful was a significant Hollywood investment aimed at launching a new franchise. Its depiction of Glinda as a royal heir introduced courtly intrigue and political stakes absent in many earlier adaptations. Michelle Williams' portrayal drew inspiration from both the poised 1939 Glinda and more active modern heroines, aligning with contemporary expectations for female characters to show agency. In Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return, the film's production was part of a wave of animated sequels during the 2010s targeting nostalgic parents and their children. Glinda's transformation into a marionette by Jester visually symbolized the dangers of losing free will, adding a darker twist to her usual role as Dorothy's protector. Once upon a time, Glinda appeared during a period when fairy tale shows dominated TV ratings. Her silver gown and powerful artifacts linked her to ongoing plotlines about magical relics, expanding Oz's mythology within the show's interconnected fairy tale universe. The Wiz Live became a landmark production for live TV musicals, showcasing diverse casting with Uzo Aduba's Glinda and drawing record audiences. The show's fresh reinterpretation celebrated African-American musical traditions and reimagined Glinda as a glamorous, authoritative figure inspiring confidence. Emerald City took advantage of premium TV trends with serialized, complex storytelling, reimagining Glinda as a political strategist in a Game of Thrones-like Oz. Her boarding school for orphan girls added a chilling note, evoking historical references to real-world institutions like Victorian workhouses, and reflecting darker modern fantasies themes of control and manipulation. The Tom and Jerry sequel and Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz animated series leaned into lighter, serialized storytelling, focusing on continuous adventures rather than standalone tales. These interpretations emphasized Glinda's role as an ever-present mentor guiding Dorothy through increasingly outlandish threats, a nod to the Monster of the Week TV format popular in children's programming. In Lost in Oz, Glinda's radical redesign, with red hair, pointed ears, and a gothic style, signaled a deliberate break from tradition to attract a new generation of viewers seeking edgier visuals. The show incorporated themes of environmentalism and resource scarcity, using Glinda's magic as a metaphor for managing natural resources, an example of modern children's media addressing complex, real-world issues. The upcoming Wicked Part 1 film promises to deliver a cinematic spectacle, with Ariana Grande's Glinda combining the familiar bubbly charm of the stage musical with a fresh interpretation for contemporary audiences. The film's updated costume design, including ruby slipper-like shoes, pays homage to both the 1939 movie and the original Broadway show, weaving Glinda's history into a single visual language. The character's deepening emotional arc, focusing on loyalty, heartbreak, and empowerment, reflects 21st century storytelling's emphasis on nuanced female friendships. And that wraps up the incredible evolution of Glinda the Good Witch, from her earliest appearances over a century ago to the upcoming Wicked Part 1. Which version of Glinda is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of one of Oz's most iconic characters, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories about your favorite characters from film, TV, and beyond. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.